Hi, Domingo, and welcome to the Future of UX. I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here as well.
You brought a lot of really cool things all about prototyping at Intercom, or actually now Fin, right?
Yep, that's correct. That's how we're called. Yep.
And I'm so excited to dive in. But before we really get all the insights, please do a little intro and tell all the listeners who you are and what you're doing at Fin now.
Yeah. My name is Domingo. I'm a staff designer at Fin, and I currently lead our Frontend Infrastructure team. We basically own the front end of the whole application. And the mission of our team is to build a platform and tools all the teams of Intercom can ship product faster. So they can design faster, they can ship faster, can prototype faster, and it can all be done with AI in the best possible way. So one of the things that we own is the design system, but it's just kind of a small portion of it. We own all of the front end, the tooling, the securities. My team is all front end engineers and me, basically. And I'm doing the design side of things, but also a little bit of front end engineering as well.
So what would you say? What are the things that make you faster as a team?
The things that make it's all changing a lot, obviously, with AI. Makes us faster. Some things have never changed. So we collaborate very closely. We talk all the time and we get along with each other really well. But I think very willing, be flexible with our process. So if a team needs something new, willing to build it. If a tool is not working, we're willing to deprecate it. So we're always very willing to look at what's out there, what we're using. So we're always willing to change. And that makes us faster because tomorrow we can say, actually, there's this new way of prototyping. Let's do it. And let's find out if it works, or if there is a new way of building React in a way that is safer and is better for AI, do it. So we're very kind of in tune with change and are willing to experiment a lot.
This is probably the only solution. The only option that we have as designers is really adapting this change and changing constantly. But what would you say is the current process for prototyping that you aligned on right now? I know there's so much going on with Claude, with Figma. So how does the process looks like right now?
Because we own the front end, we're building the infrastructure to not only build front end that goes directly to production and to our users, but we're also building the infrastructure to allow our designers, our engineers, and our PMs and anybody that wants to prototype with AI to prototype. And we're thinking about it in two ways and two use cases. Use case one, both ways are aligned with our design system. They use our tooling, our components, all of the stuff that makes Fin. One way is more blue sky prototyping. So we have a dedicated repository called the Design Playground. So in there, you can essentially spin out that repository and you can use our design system to build anything you want, and you have less guardrails. So you can really explore new interactions. You can plug your own data. You can do a bunch of stuff in there. That's one way. The second way is prototyping directly in production. And this is something that we've seen designers doing way more and more. Sometimes the easiest path is just to spin a branch of Fin and create directly in the page that you want to change. You don't need to go to an engineer to do it. The design system is robust enough that you can go in and you can add a button to a page, or you can change the layout. And that is kind of another way of prototyping, and it's closer to what a front-end engineer would do in the past. So designers are becoming builders. So they're just going in there, they're creating a branch, they're doing a page, and then when they're happy, they're just giving that to the engineers, and then the engineers focus, make sure it's safe, make sure it uses all the standards. They are the ones that actually connect the plumbing. So the data, all of the mechanics, the testing, all of the stuff that makes it more robust. Designers kind of focus on the front end. Just make sure the interaction is really nice, it uses everything, it works well, all of the flows are right. And then these engineers can essentially plumb it. So it's two ways to prototype: playground, blue sky, directly in production, basically.
I think this is pretty fascinating because if you think back a year ago or so, or maybe two, this whole conversation wouldn't happen. You would be like, I'm designing this in Figma and then I'm creating some animations and I'm exporting that's it. And now you didn't even mention Figma. And I think this is pretty fascinating. So dive into the first way of prototyping, the playground. give us a little sneak peek in how this looks like, how you set this up, and how you're actually using this. I can.
So I'm right now in my local host, which means I have this running in my machine. I won't show you the code. It's not that relevant, but this is basically a dedicated repository that a designer, we see PMs using it as well, and marketeers, anybody can have access. So they can clone this repository, they can essentially fire it up in their machines, and they get this automatically. Under the hood, they have all of the components of search. Search is the Fin design system, and they have all of the components, the tokens, everything that they need in here to essentially start changing these pages. I, by default, added some things for them just to make sure that they have, as they're prototyping, they have like, the basics around like our type scale, our colors. They have access to all of our iconography here. They have elevation, but they also have tools. Our search intelligence, which is all of the skills and information layer that we've created that to basically help AI build things in the right way. And I'll dive into that in a bit more later. We go all of the prototyping skills that they use to design. So and things that you can give to Claude to do prototyping quicker. So like start a new page, build, check my React. They have tools to access to agentation as well. Agentation is a tool that allows them to add comments that they can then send to Claude. So Claude can like make visual changes directly in those comments. This was not done by us. This was done by a very famous designer in the industry. I can't remember his name, but if you look at agentation, you will find it. He works in X now. I will find the name.
I will put add it to the show notes. Yeah.
And basically, they also have Playwright MCP. So this is an MCP that allows Claude to actually see the screen and then check if everything that they have here is correct. And the way designers are using this is basically they have a bunch of pages in here already laid out for them. They even have access to AI page like this one where they can actually test and play with like AI chats. Just change anything they want. They can kind of completely remove all of the pages that they have here and create their own prototype. Or we've seen some wild prototypes created by designers. This is just a playground. We have some defaults in here. We have skills, we have tools, we have like all the components, all the tokens, everything is set up for them. Everything is set up in the background. But a designer can choose to just remove it all and start their own page. They can work with it essentially. And I'll give you some examples that our team is doing. So one of the things that my team tackles is, as the front-end infrastructure team, sometimes we build patterns for everybody. Not necessarily components, but like how should we do Command K across the whole app? And what does it mean to do Command K? Or like, how do we do filtering across the whole app? So we are in charge to also building those global patterns, making them really good, writing all the documentation and training Claude in those patterns, because then Claude will then put them in a page for you if you're a designer or an engineer. This, what you see here, is kind of an experimental build of like the design playground. You can see here that the pages are entirely different. We've been working here in some other stuff, and this has been done by one of the designers called Danny Bonilla. He's been helping us a little bit with like prototyping, and he's been working really closely with me. The amazing thing about working with the playground is and working with Claude is the things you can do. Things like writing your brief, documenting your design decisions, documenting your users' guidelines. You can do all of that directly here. So you don't have to go into Figma. You don't have to go into any other tool. One of the things that you can see here with Command K essentially like is a pattern to like allow, basically when you press Command K, you can then see this. There is a bunch of rules around what is a simple action, what is a parent action, how many levels does it go through when you click on it, how does it animate in and down, like how do we show the pills in here, what kind of information do we show here? There's a bunch of information, and this is one of those patterns that is way easier to just build like this, really play with it directly in code. But also as you go along, we like one of the things that you can do with Claude is you're stumbling into, I think this should work this way. Maybe like the way we do the group header should be this. You can also use Claude to document that in the page. It's a very meta way of working where you're essentially using the playground, build the pattern to also document the design decisions, to also document the usage guidelines. It's like we're basically creating all of the information that an engineer and Claude will ever need to actually build the realistic version of this.
And one question, so how would this look like? So imagine that I am building now a new filtering system. I want to create a prototype. What would be the first step? Do I first look into like the playground, look at the different elements that are already there? Do I open the terminal? And how does it look like step by step? What would you say?
So this has changed a lot. And I think it will continue to change as AI becomes more prevalent. The old way of working, and there is still some old that is still kind of relevant, but like the old way of working, if you think about it, you have a problem and you kind of define the problem with research, and you sit down and you really write down, okay, this is a problem that I need to be solving. You start creating like a list of potential solutions. Then you do a mockup, and then you then take that mockup into user testing. Then once you're ready, this is good. Then you give it to an engineer and you're like, can you build this for me? This is really good. I did build a filtering system, so I'll give you an example of. So we have the same issue. I'm building a filtering system. Instead of going through research, problem, mockups, all of the whole process, when we defined the problem, we did a bit of research, and we built a thing because it's just way cheaper. So I did some initial research on the problems. Like, these are the problems of the current system, like your classic stuff, right? These are the problem themes. We have discoverability. We have like quickly searching is difficult. We have like problems with the fact that we couldn't do nesting and ORs. So a bunch of very technical problems. I did this. I don't think this step's going to go away. You still need to know what you're building and at a high level. Normally, what we will do before is I will go from here to maybe Figma to kind of like mock up a version and user testing, and we'll kind of do multiple loops of that. What I actually did with filtering, I actually built the filtering prototype. The only things that I did in Figma is very lightweight sketches, like really rough sketches on like how I kind of thought this could work. But the filtering system is such a complicated mechanism that actually like interacts with booleans, interacts with things, with dates, with numbers, with response times, with like equal, greater, less than. It's such a complicated system, and in the way that like the system then applies data to a specific data set, that it didn't make sense for me to go through multiple iterations of in Figma. I built it, and on the go, as I was building it, I discovered a bunch of edge cases. On the go with the build that I had, I tested it, I showed it to users, and the iteration that I did wasn't multiple pages in Figma. It was just multiple versions of the prototype. So I will just take the prototype to a call, show it to a user, come back after the call, talk to Claude and be like, this didn't work. What if we change it? Create another version. And then you're essentially, it's cheaper to build. Think about it like before when you did user testing.
Yeah. Crazy, so much faster as well. And the quality is also so much better, especially for these complicated projects like a filtering or like data tables, dashboards. I mean, this was just fake in Figma, so we need this kind of integration.
Yeah.
How do you create this, please? Do you use the terminal and have access to everything like the playground locally, or how do you access this?
When I started working on all these tools, I actually used to open Cursor and or open Visual Studio Code with Claude on it. But I'll be honest with you, I don't even look at the code anymore. So I just open the terminal like this. I navigate to the repository that I need. So I navigate to the design playground, as you can see here.
So right now I'm only seeing the design playground page.
Yeah.
I think you only shared the window, right?
Yeah. Let me just show you the terminal. So this is how I will work. So I will basically open a new terminal, navigate to the repository where I want to work, and then type Claude, and then Claude will be there, and then I'll start working directly with Claude. So I don't actually open the code anymore. I work with Claude, and then I ask Claude to essentially fire up the design playground so I can see it in local, and then I'm essentially testing it. Asking Claude to make changes, testing it, asking Claude to make changes, testing it, asking Claude to make changes. Sometimes where I will open the code myself and I'll change it if I'm too obsessive, or like a spacing, because I know how to. But I find that it's just way easier to just ask Claude to do it, basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's kind of basically how
And this is basically the process that you use for prototyping. So for like ideation, new features, new ideas, new concepts. And is this something that only the design department uses, or is this also something where like other departments are like creating their own prototypes? How does that work at Fin?
PMs are prototyping as well. They have access to a design playground, and they can also spin it up. They can also create a page. And this is why having a very robust design system becomes really important. Your PMs are not going to be questioning the components, right? They want to just put a table together because they want to experiment. A lot of the work that we'll be doing is training Claude to make sure that like anybody who uses Claude, get a page, already the knowledge baked in, make sure that we enforce our quality. PMs are using it, and we've seen product marketeers are using it as well to create things. We've seen like researchers using it as well. So everybody at Fin is encouraged to use Claude, use AI to achieve the goals of the company. So whatever makes them faster. So and like we've had to kind of think about it differently. Before you wanted like to enforce your standards and be like, oh, don't do that. But
Yeah.
that's not the future anymore. Everybody should be able to just go in and prototype, and why not? And then we can just change it. It's very easy.
How do you align? Like, how do you share results? Do maybe QA some of the designs from like PMs or like non-designers? Do you need these QAs even, or how does the process look? Like the alignment, especially. I'm curious about that.
It depends of the team, I think, but I think you still have like you still have documents like this. So there's documents, right? There's still documents where a lot of us are writing down the problems that we have with our PMs are writing the problems, but it's way lightweight than what it used to be in the future. In the past, like in the past, it would be like really complicated documents and like a bunch of stuff. Now you have like very simple Google Docs, or very simple code pages, which is like, this is what I'm trying to solve. This is the link to the prototype. Test it. It works. Yes, no. Let's go live. The way we do QA, sometimes I will essentially. It depends. Like I will sometimes duplicate the code of the engineer and change the visuals myself, or you need less QA as well, usually, because what you are handing over to your engineer, like if you think about these filters like that I designed here, like this is what I handed over. Like they already work in the way I want them to work. They already have all of the states that I wanted to state. It has some little issues here and there, but it already has all the components. It has a relative and absolute. It has a date picker. I build them all like fully, and I really tested them to a point where I wanted to make sure that my engineer was not worried about UI. My engineer needed to worry about making sure that the data was filtered properly and like making sure that the on, before, after has any value work. He basically told me like he grabbed my PR and he gave the PR, he used the PR to build everything, and he didn't have to touch the UI. And this prototype that you see here was basically then that became the components in Storybook to build all of the filtering prototypes that we essentially shipped to users. The handover was, I gave my engineer a PR, which is like let me show you here so you can see it. I gave my engineer a PR with all of the changes and all of the prototype, which is what you see here, all of the prototype. But also I created an empty file. I have a skill called document state, which Claude just examines your code and it creates a state of affairs document, which is what you see here. Basically, like an engineer can use to orient themselves. Basically explains everything they need to know about the prototype, which this is what it's used for. This is what it demonstrates. This is the architecture that it was used to build, all of the parts. This is the workarounds that I had to do to make it work, which is the workarounds they will actually fix because I had to actually break things to make it work. And an engineer just grabs this and uses Claude as well to then build the final version. It's a very different world because I'm building the UI and the prototype with Claude. I'm documenting it with Claude, giving it the documentation to my engineer. My engineer is using Claude.
Yeah.
Slowing everything down.
Yeah, 100%, right? This was what I was thinking, like fascinating.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned skills. How do you work with skills? You already mentioned like the one with the documentation. What other skills do you have and how do you collaboratively work with these skills as a design team?
So we own so there is essentially, we have skills that are global for the whole company. So the engineering team maintains a bunch of skills we want engineers to use for specific things like QA, security. There is a bunch of skills that allows engineers to do their work on a day-to-day basis. We wanted to do the same for design. And my team, we started this whole project called Search Intelligence. We found out we created some skills and the results were kind of mixed, like we had to kind of iterate with the skills a lot. And we started coming into this conclusion that the skills are only as good as the data provide Claude to use when it's using the skill. So we created essentially this concept of let me show you, of search intelligence. Search intelligence is no skill. It's an information layer that collates every single decision and note and information about our components, our tokens, the way we code React, the way we code components, the way we build patterns, our best practices, and it's persistent, it's growing, we keep adding to it, and then we rewrote all of our skills, or the skills read from it, essentially. The way it works is like a global resource, and any skill that we write, whether it's Claude, whether it's GPT, it doesn't matter. It reads from this information layer that everybody in those AI tools guaranteed to have AI that is informed by the right components, the right users, the right tokens and stuff. So within all of this search intelligence, we have a few skills. We have a skill called search design that will just help. It's like a global skill, and you can essentially say, Claude, can you just examine my design and tell me if it's better, if it's good or not? Or can you examine my design and tell me if it's using the design system properly? Or can you recommend me a design, a component that doesn't exist here? Or a component that I don't know that it exists. So it will search components for you. It will audit your design. It will help you animate things. It's like a global thing. Mm-hmm. We have search handoff, which is basically what packages a design and a prototype when it's ready. So it's the document that I show you for the prototype. That's what handoff does. It will create a document, kind of package it all up, and then it will give it. It will make your PR you'll put it in a state where you can actually give it to an engineer. Cool. And we have let me see. We have a few more. And we have search content. Search content is really, really important. Search content basically is also is connected to intelligence, and it helps you write content in a way.
Copywriting content,
for everything. That one is very much maintained by our content designer, Russell. But we've been working really closely with him in the same way. The taste that we encode into search intelligence, we have a lot of decisions around tokens and stuff, and React, and how to code React, and how to import things. We needed to bring all of the content information, because essentially you should be able to write content well. Those are the main three skills, but it's all now the three of them are using the knowledge base, which is search intelligence.
On search intelligence, and
which makes it better.
So search intelligence is then basically a documentation, right? Where everything's documented, also pretty much an MD file, or how can I imagine the structure of search intelligence?
This is a good way to look at it. Basically, is split into multiple levels. So we have essentially 2 layers, 3 layers in a way. The layer 1 is we have a single skill, but then depending of what you're asking, all of the 3 skills that you saw will then go through a decision-making process to find out what they need. The first layer that they will look at is pattern documentation, which is which pattern applies, what's the key composition rule, how to use a pattern. The second one is components. So it's which components do I use here? What is a critical decision? How to use this component? The third one is foundation. So which token should I use? How to use it? How do I use typography? What is the border radius? How do I use what's the type scale? Shadow? What's the shadow? Which shadow do I use?
So all the design knowledge, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
The things that only designers know most of the times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If in the majority of cases, 80%, this is done, is covered by the skill. Claude will give you a pretty good answer. But there is cases where you want to go deeper into a pattern. So perhaps you're using a model and you want to go deeper into how to use the model. We then have specific documents for a pattern. So like if Claude cannot find what it needs in the first level, it will go into the third level, and this goes into detail on like models and like how to use models in like full detail, and or like filtering, how to use filtering for full detail. We also have in the same layer like very specific things about components, we have like a whole document about color, how to use color. It's very detailed. Think about it. The first level is like 80% of the cases. It has all of use this, don't use this, don't use this. The level 3 is like, okay, but what is the color theory behind the colors in here? And this is kind of the best way to explain the intelligence. It's all kind of compiled in this way, and all of the skills, they just go to a process of like reading this information.
And who wrote all these MD files, these instructions, these documents? Because I imagine like I'm seeing like 44 docs, like buttons and dialogue. So much content, so much knowledge. It's so much work to put all of that basically down in a documentation. Right? Like, how did you start with something like?
Our team wrote them all, and I'm not gonna lie to you, we use Claude to write them with us as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, we basically like we did the first draft of everything with Claude, and it got a lot of stuff wrong, and we were like, okay, but at least it's the first draft, right? It already gives you like a lot of the things to start working, and then all the process now has been like reading each one of them in detail and be like, this is wrong. Okay, let me change it. This is good. This is good. Oh, I didn't thought about it. Okay, let's keep this here, and expanding them. And the intelligence documents are ever evolving. So we are constantly adding more things. Like right now we're finishing the work with like some things that we want to do some updates that we want to do to filtering. We have to update this. The work sits is just encoding this information. The power of it is that I don't need to go and tell a designer, hey, make sure that you use this filter. Yeah. Because I know Claude will be telling a designer, make sure you use this filter, because the way we have been training Claude to read this and tell them off for us, we're basically reaching like wider spread because we are enforcing a lot of our usage through Claude. I want to say for the purpose of the video, which is really important, this is not only information about design. A lot of information here is engineering information, like how a component is coded, what is the best way to use React, what is the best way to use React to certain patterns in here. So we've been working with the front-end engineers to make sure that this encodes a lot of engineering decisions. Our biggest users of search intelligence and the playground and building things quicker is engineers. Engineers, we are seeing that we are moving into a future where there's always going to be more engineers, and engineers can build features themselves. So an engineer can, with Claude, get a user request, and between an engineer and a PM, they can both build it. And they don't have to wait for a designer to go in and help. A designer might actually like just get the final pass when they think is good. But if we encode all of the information, we can guarantee that that PM and that engineer can just get a pretty good solution out to the user. Perhaps the design team can do a pass after. The work that we do as a design team is more focused on the vision, on like the future, like where are we going? And we don't need to build the tiny features anymore because we're encoding all of it, and Claude can just build it for you really quickly. That's kind of the future. We're thinking about it, teams of one.
Fascinating. And it really reminds me of something that you said earlier. AI is so fast, it feels like humans are actually slowing it down sometimes a little bit. And what I find so interesting, especially in like this playground approach, is that also the roles are melting so much. There was a time where like no one else knew about which filter, which shadow to use when and where, only the designers. And now all this knowledge is shared. Open source in the organization, the same with coding, the same with everything. I think it opens up so many new opportunities also for designers to position themselves a little bit differently, also for like roles to change. How do you see that at Fin? Right? Like that roles are emerging and changing, and what's your take on that?
I think like everybody's becoming a builder, like you see engineers just using the design system and Claude to build features and put them out to the users without a designer. And you see PMs doing that as well. you see PMs prototyping. So like PMs are like prototyping, I think it should work this way. And they can they prototype stuff. When they come into a meeting, actually, I kind of see what you mean. I think it might not look great yet, or maybe it looks great already because it used the search intelligence. But you can have a more meaningful conversation. So everybody's building and designers are building as well. And I always tell just get out of Figma. And I think there is an identity crisis for designers because for many years, designers have tied their value to Figma in a way. Like, oh, the value that I bring is, is this file with all of these ideas, with the annotated spec, and this is the future. But when you think about it, that is just a file. That's not real. When you come into a meeting and you say, I have an idea for Fin, I think it should work this way, and you share the screen, and it's a prototype that works and is connected to production data, it sells. So it really helps you in yourself I think it's really exciting because as a designer, you have all these ideas and be like, I actually think this could work. I'm just going to build it. And then you can just show it. And it's like, oh shit, it works. It's really good. It works really well. The most senior designers in the team, that's what they're doing. Creating vision pieces and they're just building them. And then we're using that code and those prototypes to actually influence where we go next, basically.
I think such a fascinating time, and designers are moving more and more out of this little bubble, like this little safety net, Figma, where they were all on their own. But also a lot of department heads, sometimes, at least from my experience, problem is understanding what design was, what they were actually doing, what this Figma thing is about, and they left some comments. Like, I think the communication was sometimes a bit difficult, the alignment. And now what you mentioned, right? This designers are builders, they can share something, people get excited, we are more in one boat, and before it feels like we were sometimes a little bit in like different boats, and now we're like moving into one big boat, which is sometimes more difficult to navigate, I feel, because it's really big.
It could be, but I think designers are getting a sense of how difficult sometimes things to do are engineering wise. Mm-hmm. Yes, Claude is great. It's very, very good. It can do a lot of things, but also you stumble into situations where you're like, this actually doesn't work when you build it. No, it doesn't make any sense. Or you start on a bunch of edge cases. You start gaining way more understanding of the engineering part of things. But also that's happening with PMs as well. PMs are trying to vibe code thing. And if they're not using the design system or they're not using the right skills and they get into situations where things look really badly, they're like, I know it doesn't feel right, but I don't know what it is. Yeah, actually, I can get the idea out, but I need a designer. So I think we're all kind of related a bit more to it. Some designers are using it a lot for analysis, and getting a lot of big data set, analyzing it, getting into a problem statement a bit quicker. At the end of the day, you still need your own critical thinking as a designer. You need to be able to say, this is good, this is bad, this is a real problem, this is not a real problem. It's up to you. But you have the tools to get you there quicker to like inspect things, build things, go fetch data, go ask, compare. You can do way more, but I think ultimately is bringing us all closer together. Mm-hmm. It's all like, it doesn't matter the medium in which you work, it doesn't matter anymore. Mm-hmm. Before it's like, a PM works in Google Docs and a designer works in Figma. The engineer works in like Visual Studio Code. Now we're all working in the same medium. We're all building. Today I might just go and spin the PR myself and try to code it with Claude. Tomorrow I might be in a Google Doc writing a strategy. It doesn't matter. We're all we have our specialist skills, but it's all kind of compressing basically.
Yeah. So many more skills, so much more like variety of tasks that you could do, of possibilities. First of all, thank you so much for giving this intro on how I use Playground and prototyping. I think this is super, super cool to see it, how prototyping is so important. I think this is something that we can all align on. It's not always about like producing production ready code. Sometimes it almost is, as a filtering example, but most of the times it's more about like ideating, trying things out, learning together, testing faster, and then getting insights and then producing something. In the beginning, you mentioned that there's a second area of prototyping that you use, which is not prototyping, but more like production ready prototyping. And I'm now really curious how that looks like, because this was already on the edge, what you showed us, almost production ready. So I'm curious, how does the second part of prototyping at Fin looks like?
We've seen the Playground lets you do a bunch of stuff. But sometimes the best way to do things is to directly do them in production. Yeah. And we have designers that they don't have front-end engineers. We have designers that are working with maybe 2 back-end engineers, and they are effectively the designer and the front-end engineer. And they're essentially just building the thing, how it looks, where it is. And then the back-end engineers are like doing all the plumbing for them and like finishing the work. And this second way of prototyping is basically being an engineer. And it's essentially like spinning up the production code and building using Claude to build something. And this is where search intelligence and skills come in really handy, because we've encoded a bunch of toolings and skills and Claude rules to Claude. So Claude can really guide you into it in a way that is safe, and ultimately you can never ship anything to production if an engineer doesn't check it. So I've been working really closely recently on Operator. Operator right now is in beta, really, really powerful tool, and I recommend people to sign up for it. And Operator is essentially it's a chat tool that allows you to basically configure Fin. So it's very easy. You can use Operator to basically configure Fin, and you can do analysis of conversations, and you can do a bunch of stuff. And the thing with Operator, which makes it really interesting, is like prototyping Operator is not easy, not even in the playground, because you want Operator to chat. You want it to just, to be real, have conversation, to access our APIs and all of our stuff. The way designers working in Operator are designing, that when they prototype new things, they're just directly spinning PRs and then just adding things to Operator and then testing it as in the same way an engineer will test it. And I think I got like a really, really small example of that, which is like I recently built a way for Operator to essentially allow you to like share articles. So like a share an Operator chat. And this is something that's easier for me to just build it directly here. Spin it up. I chatted to Claude and I said, look, I need to be able to chat Operator chats. This is all my needs. This is all my stuff. It's going to be at the top of the chat screen. It's going to look this way. And then all the work that I did, it was just the biggest work that I've done is just plumbing in all of the specific components that are needed for this experience to work. And I plumbed them in all into the actual production environment. And then I gave a PR to my engineers saying, here is the chat experience. This is the sharing mechanism. This is how it works. You can test how it works when somebody's sharing it with you. When it's read only, when it has an owner, what do you see when it's like pending changes? Then you can also test how it looks when you can share it with somebody, and how you actually like find a name, and all of this stuff, and how to see it works. This is kind of the second way, and a lot of designers are working this way. They're essentially just directly a branch on the actual code of Fin and building a new feature. And I think more and more that will be the way. The skills are going to get really good. Claude's going to get really good. The infrastructure teams, like all of the work that is to make this happen. It's to make it really easy for you not to make a mistake. It's to make it really easy for Claude to guide you in a way that is safe. So we really want to empower designers to do this. Designers to be able to actually, I see a bug in a page. I'm just going to fix it. Why do you need to wait? That's how the big transformation into us using AI came about at the beginning of last year. We were all told as a design team, you all need to have access to the production code. And you at least need to be able to spin up a local environment. You might not know how to change it, but you need to do it. We went through a whole process of getting everybody set up. So when the AI tools came and they started being able to make changes, we were there already. We didn't have to convince the designer to get access to the code. The code was already installed in the machines. All they needed to do was ask Claude about it. And that spinned up a bunch of possibilities, because designers started querying the code and asking Claude, can you explain to me how this feature works? And what are the edge cases? And what data does it pull? And how does the data work? And also designers started just building things in the same way I showed you.
I really love to hear that. Those things are handed to designers, that they didn't even need to fight for it, that your team was like one of the first who got access to production ready code, could play around with it, experiment, and then got really good at it. I mean, see half a year later how far you've come. everything that you already built. I think this is super inspiring, probably for a lot of teams who are like maybe watching this, listening to this podcast episode or watching the video version and seeing what is actually capable of how you can use Claude Code in a safe and secure environment to speed things up and integrate other departments to really work together on something. I mean, I think you already shared a little bit about this, but I'm super curious to hear especially your thoughts on the future of design. So for us as designers, we are becoming builders, but what would you say is important for us now as a department, pretty much, to position ourselves to be successful, to be seen in the future?
I think you need to have really good, there's two traits that I think that are going to make a successful designer. I'm just going to see how this works and like play with this new tool. I think you need that curiosity because these things are moving fast and you need that excitement, explorer to play with, to see how it works, to try to break it, to see where the edges are. That's what allows you to see the edges. You're curious, you're playing, and you start playing with it, and you realize actually it's really good for this, it's really not good for this, and that curiosity is going to take you a long way because it's going to make you faster in certain ways. Find a way to work. Critical thinking is important. Like, yes, you can ask Claude to summarize things. You can ask Claude to like code for you. You can ask Claude to prototype it for you. But at the end of the day, you need to have a good sense of the problem, what you're solving. You need to be able to see a document and read it. Like you need to read. Like, don't stop reading. Like, I know Claude can summarize it. Claude summarizes it, but you need to read it. You need to understand it, and you need to be like, actually, that's not true, because he makes mistakes. And I think designers of the future are going to be those that are less tied to the tools. They're going to be more like, what needs to build? What do we need to do right now? Do we need to build a prototype? Let's do it. Do we need to write a strategy? Let's do it. The teams are going to get smaller, sadly. You're setting the vision for the future, but you can also build part of it. Sometimes it's sad because we are asked a lot. We are design the future, be the strategies, do the research. But I think the tools are going to make this way easier as well. So it's just having the curiosity to like lean in. I see sometimes designers that are like, oh, I don't want to spend time after work designing or exploring design. I'm like, well, maybe you're going to stay in like a specific level, right? Like you need to be able to have curiosity, like play with it, or like carve a little time, like in your workday, like an hour, see what's possible, because that is then going to make your work better in your day-to-day work, but it's also going to open opportunities in the future for you to say, you know what, I actually can do that. I learned how to do it, and I have this little project on the side, and look what I did. And sometimes we see when we're hiring, oh yeah, show me your case study. But then they're like, I actually built this tool on the side with Claude that does this random stuff. We get really excited because we're seeing some willing to lean in, to just be like, explore, to like see what the possibilities are. So we're like, okay, show me that tool. And we've seen everything from designers. Some of the people that work at Intercom, like one of them is building a tool that like it will improve the way he books slots in the babysitting facilities where he takes his baby. Is that the tools that they are really old, and he's really tired of the fact that they're really old. So he's built like a new version of it. There's another designer there's another designer that on the side, he built like a garden planning tool where he can like scan the patches with his phone, and he will tell if the tomatoes are good or not. It's just like everybody's playing. Everybody's like, okay, what can I do? What can I use? So I think it's an exciting time. You need to play, and you need to have the confidence that there is going to be a place for you. You're going to be the one asked to say in the future to be like, show us what the vision is. Can you just design the new vision for us?
Yeah.
So that's going to be the role, right? Like, where do you think this product should go? And then you're going to come in and you're going to build something, and you're going to be like, I think this is where we should go.
Yeah. Become the visionary. Explore, play, be curious, and like relearn everything that we learned, right? I feel the last years, like since AI is here, we are relearning. So every day we are learning, and every day, at least every day there's something where I feel stupid. I was like, oh, I didn't know this. This is crazy. I learned something. And then at some point it gets so much easier. But I think there's always something that you don't know.
Yeah.
Also getting over this feeling of feeling stupid. You can't know everything. There's always something new. If you haven't used Claude or the terminal, then you don't even know how to access a folder on your computer. But you will learn it. It's pretty easy. ED. And then you type the folder name and then you've already got, like, this was such a crazy moment for me when I did this for the first time. Easy. It's very easy, actually. It's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. Everything is not complicated.
Sometimes I get this question, which is like, oh, how do I start with Claude? I'm like, Claude, and ask Claude, how do I start with Claude?
Yeah, that is great. I love that.
Yeah, like I just
give you some tips.
How do I start using you? And what should we do first? I have like the longest, like in my personal Claude account, I have so many random questions because I'm so curious. So I'm always like, how does this tool to do?
Yeah.
And who invented the first metal piece that was done in this shape? Who created this computer? Why is it this way? And what is this type of fabric? I have like super random questions. I'm constantly asking. So I'm like, that's it. Like always like, how does it work? How does it work? Ultimately, that is what being a designer is. You ask questions. You want to find out how things work. You want to map out the problems because you understand how they work. And then you want to offer a solution about how can they work better.
Yeah, this is a thing.
That's a summary, like a crazy summary of a designer, but it's pretty much it.
I love that. I think like a wonderful positive ending. Also an era where a lot of designers feel a bit lost, a bit overwhelmed with things. But I agree with everything that you said. I think like there's a way out. Curiosity, really use AI, start really small, play around, build something and play. You know, we're always complaining that this playfulness went away from the design work. Now we get back, we can do it now. You know, we got back to this playfulness and the creative work that we missed all those years where we just created basic components in a design diary. So I think a lot of opportunities for us right now and I'm very excited about it.
Absolutely.
Domingo, thank you so much for being in the podcast. I really loved getting this sneak peek into the playground and search intelligence. It was so fascinating. Thank you so much for being here. Anyone wants to reach out, maybe have questions. Where's the best way to reach you? Where can people find you?
Best way to reach me is in LinkedIn. I know that sounds really old. I have a website as well.
I thought you mentioned like Facebook now. I was like, okay.
No. I tend to, for work things, I tend to check LinkedIn. I'll answer those messages for sure. I always answer those messages. And if not, my website. And I have an X account as well. I use it a bit less. I mostly use it for inspiration. If you message me in X, I will answer as well.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that's it for this episode. Thank you for giving this intro on prototyping, AI prototyping at Finn. I really loved it. Thank you so much for being here. And I absolutely loved this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.